Secretary will call the roll.
Onnested, Alquist, Ashburn, Benoit, Calderon, Cedillo, Cogdill, Corbett, Correa, Cox, Denham, DeSaulnier, Ducheney, Dutton, Flores, Hancock, Harmon, Hollingsworth, Huff, Kehoe, Leno, Liu, Lowenthal, Maldonado, Negrete McLeod, Oropesa, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Romero, Runner, Semidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Walters, Wiggins, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee. Mr. President, we are electing you.
Senator Ashburn notices the absence of a quorum. The Sergeant-at-Arms will lock the doors and call the absent members. Members, a quorum is present. Would the members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this morning by our guest chaplain, the Reverend Stephen Gilbert. After which, please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Wolk.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to start today with a question. What is possible? So often we dwell on the things that make what we want impossible. And from that mental atmosphere of impossibility, trying to move or shift obstacles embodies the futility of Sisyphus. Focusing on obstacles only reinforces them. So what is possible? This is a question that often gets scoffed at precisely because it doesn't take into account the obstacles. It forces us to look for space between obstacles, to look for new resources, to test for different directions, to be open to anything other than what we think we know. Voltaire said, "No problem can stand the assault of sustained thinking." The thinking he is speaking of is not a stolid certainty of having the only answer. It is the thinking of collaboration, humility, and creativity. It is the thinking that comes out of continuing to ask, what is possible? God is a God of possibility. Let's allow this energy and spirit of possibility to work in us and move us forward together. God is the spirit of unity, of oneness, and is everywhere present. This means he is present in this room this morning and in each person in this room. It lives in us, through us, as us. All we need do is open to this great source of creativity within, which can and will inspire you to find our way. Our God, our prayer this morning is simple. Work in us, for we know that with God, all things are possible. God bless you, God bless California, and so it is.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Privileges of the floor. Senator Lowenthal, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
For the purposes of introduction,
Please proceed.
Mr. President, members, as we see in the front of the chamber, one of the flags this morning, we are flying the flag of the Netherlands at the podium in honor of our distinguished delegation members in the back of the chambers. Members, it is my privilege to introduce the 6 members of the National Parliament, led by the Honorable Gerardus Koopmans, who is chair of the Committee on Housing, Spatial Planning, and the Environment. Members, the members of the Netherlands Parliament are here to gain further insight into current developments in energy, climate change, and environmental policies. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our special guests from the Netherlands.
At Senator Steinberg's desk, Senator Lowenthal.
If they might just want to say a few words, just a few words to our.
We'd be pleased to hear from the delegation, and again, we welcome you.
Dear colleague, members of parliament, dear colleague, senators of this beautiful state, California, thank you for this warm welcome to us. Thank you for that our national flag is in this floor. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you very much, and again, welcome. Are there further privileges of the floor? Senator Benoit.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask at the author's request to please remove AB 1268 from the consent calendar and move it to the inactive file.
Without objection, so ordered. Senator Onestad.
Mr. President, under motions and resolutions.
Under motions and resolutions, Senator Onestad.
There's a resolution at the desk requesting permission to suspend the joint rules so that numerous bills may be heard and reported after the deadlines. This request has been approved by the Rules Committee. I urge your adoption of this resolution.
Secretary, read the resolution.
Resolved that Joint Rule 61A10 be extended to July 17, 2009 as requested.
Members, this requires a roll call vote. Secretary will call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Aye. Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Correa? Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeCheney? Dutton? Aye. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Harmon? Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Lowenthal? Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Romero? Aye. Runner? Aye. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Correa, aye.
Call the absent members.
Calderon? Cedillo? Corbett? DeCheney? Hancock? Harmon? Liu? Aye. Maldonado? Oropesa? Price? Mr. President, ayes 31, no 0.
Ayes 31, no 0. The joint rules are suspended. Senator Kehoe, for what purpose do you rise?
Privileges of the floor, Mr. President.
Proceed.
Thank you so much. Members, if I could have your attention for one moment, I want to point out my niece at the rear of the chambers, Haishin Kehoe, who's going into her 3rd year at Half Moon Bay High School, and she's been hanging out with me this week and next week and spending hours in committee rooms and soaking it all up, so I really am glad she's here.
We want to join you in welcoming her, Senator. Senator Steinberg, for what purpose do you rise, sir? Senator Steinberg at his desk.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. I want to take this moment to introduce the former Speaker of the Pakistan National Assembly, the Honorable Saeed Kar Imam, and his wife, the former Pakistani ambassador to the United States, Her Excellency Saeeda Abida Hussain. They have been visiting California as guests at the University of California. We've brought them here for budget advice. Just kidding. Mr. Kar Imam is a 1960s UC Davis graduate. Let's give these one of the distinguished people a warm, warm welcome.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg, and the Senate conveys its best wishes and welcome to your guests. Are there additional items under privileges of the floor, members? Senator Denham.
Mr. President, I rise to adjourn in memory this morning of John P. Nolan from my district. He was from Madera. He was the president and CEO of the Central Coating Company of Madera. Moved from Iowa in 1967 to start his business here, and will be missed by his family.
Thank you, Senator Denham. Please be sure to bring the name to the desk and convey our sympathies to the family. Senator Steinberg.
Again, Mr. President, again, privilege of the floor. If I might have the indulgence of the chamber here and give the former Speaker of the National Assembly just a moment to express his thanks and appreciation without objection.
Without objection, Senator Steinberg, we're pleased to welcome the former Speaker and appreciate the opportunity to hear a few words. Members, if we could have your attention for our guest, please.
Mr. President, Honorable Senators of the House of California, as a former student at the University of California, Davis, and my wife, she has been also 3 times directly elected as an honorable member of the National Assembly of Pakistan. We feel an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to be amongst parliamentarians. I know the difficulties that California is going through, but the agriculture that we saw after many years in the San Joaquin Valley, what a stupendous success it seems. And if only some of us around the world could emulate what California has done in the way of excellence, in the way of great achievement. We, coming from third world countries, but we opted to live in our own country and raise the standard of living of our people, the quality of life of our people. And that's the major way that we can confront what today is confronting Pakistan terrorism, whether it's in the form of Al-Qaeda, it's in the form of the Taliban. We feel that if there can be greater exchanges at the human, economic, and most of all in a country like ours at the agricultural level, and California has the pioneering spirit of those which can bring about a shift of paradigm, if I may use that word. And this is what we hope when we are dealing with the University of California tomorrow at Davis, that we will be able to engage with them, and I'm hoping that the state of California, the honorable members of the state of California, the honorable senators, members of the House, will engage with us in that way. I'm sorry I've taken more time than I thought I should. And with these remarks, I would like to express gratitude on behalf of Honorable Saeeda Abida Hussain, myself, and our colleagues from the University of Davis, at the University of California, Davis, for being present at this very a privileged hour. Thank you so much.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for your words of optimism, encouragement, and friendship. Senator Lowenthal, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
To remove an item from the consent calendar.
Proceed.
At the request of the author, I'd like to remove AB 1215, file item 211, from the consent calendar and placed on the inactive file.
Without objection, so ordered. Thank you, Senator. Members, we also have requests to remove from the special consent calendar the following 3 items. AB 737, file item 208, which will be moved to the inactive file. AB 1214, file item 218, and AB 407, file item 230. Without objection, so ordered. Are there further items under privileges of the floor, members? Motions, resolutions, and notices. Members, we will...
She's at the back talking to Steinberg.
All right.
Wally, can you let Duchesne know?
Members, we will recess the regular session, and without objection, we will convene the 4th extraordinary session. We will ask Senator Duchesne to take her place at her desk and to walk us through these next few items.
Essentially, there's Senate Bills 1 through 30. They're all spot bills. So take the first one, and we'll apply that in the first one.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. Similar to what we did earlier in the week in 3X bills, we now have the 4X session, and in the interest of expediting any future budget revisions that are made and agreed to in the 4th extraordinary session, we have SB 1 through 30 in 4X that are spot bills that we'd like to send to the Assembly in order to have them ready to be amended for concurrence action if and when there is a clear set of budget revisions in the 4X session. Ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Duchesne. Senator Duchesne, my understanding is that you wish that the bills be read for the 3rd time and then apply the first roll call to the remaining spot bills. Is that correct?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection to Senator Duchesne's request? All right. Seeing none, Secretary, please read items 1 through 30. Senate Bills 1 through 30.
Senate Bill 1 by Senator Duchesne, an act relating to the Budget Act 2009. Senate Bill 2 by Senator Duchesne, an act relating to the Budget Act of 2009. Senate Bill 3 by Senator Duchesne, an act relating to the Budget Act of 2009. Senate Bill 4.
Without objection, deemed read. Okay. Senator Duchesne.
Mr. Chairman, I just ask that we take a vote on SB 1, and then perhaps we can substitute the roll call thereafter.
All right.
There's
Debate
no
or
objection.
discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? No. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? No. Benoit? No. Calderon? Aye. Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? No. Corbett? Correa? Cox? No. Denham? DeSaulnier? Aye. Duchesne? Aye. Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero? Aye. Runner? No. Smidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? No. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Aye. Wyland? No. Yee? Yee, aye. Correa, aye.
Call the absent members.
Corbett, Harmon, Maldonado, Oropesa. Mr. President, ayes 23, noes 12.
Ayes 23, noes 12. The bill is passed. Members, without objection, substitute the roll call on items 2 through 30, SBs 2 through 30. Seeing and hearing none. Ayes 23, noes 12. The bills are passed. Members, we will now recess the fourth extraordinary session and reconvene in the regular session. Further business in the regular session. Please, Senator Romero, if you would join us at the dais, please. Up. AB 96, members, this is an urgency item.
Members, without objection, the following resolutions will be withdrawn from committee and placed on today's special consent calendar. They are SJR 16, ACR 42, ACR 72, ACR 81. Senator Simitian.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This is an urgency item which provides $8 million in financing for small gas station operators so that they can comply with the Air Resources Board's requirements for the installation of Phase 2 enhanced vapor recovery systems by all gasoline dispensing facilities in California. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote. To my knowledge, Madam President, there is no opposition and strong support.
Senator Cox.
Madam President, members, I am in opposition. Madam President, members, I rise in opposition to AB 96 this morning. Let me just kind of bring you back up to date if I can. This has to do with the installation of the vapor recovery system that goes on gasoline pump nozzles. As you will recall, the ones that were on the nozzles were getting about 95% efficiency and effectiveness. And this new program, which was finally approved by the ARB in mid-year of 2008, takes it from 95% effectiveness to a 97% effectiveness. Now, the reason I rise to oppose this bill is not because of the fact that the 2,000 service stations that were not in compliance don't need some sort of solution. The fact of the matter is they do. And a better solution was presented that would have in fact cost the state of California nothing. Now, this $8 million that is being proposed to be put out there is just simply feel-good money. And if feeling good is all you really want to do, I would encourage you to vote for this bill. This bill provides about $8 million to retrofit maybe 120 service stations out of the 2,000. Now, these stations needed a relief in April from the Air Resources Board requirement to change their pumps. And remember, when you change the pumps, the dispensers went from 95 to 97, 98 efficiency. And there were at least two bills that were presented that would simply have provided a 1-year extension of the CARB regulation. And members, I talked to a lot of these small service stations. Not one of them said to me, Dave, give me some money. What they said was, I need some time. I need some time because I can't find a contractor to do the installation. I can't get the equipment. If I've got the contractor, I can't get the equipment. Essentially, though, this legislature decided to defeat the idea of the extension. And they put together an arrangement with the air pollution control districts to fine no one more than $1,000. It's amazing, members, how $1,000 doesn't mean anything anymore. And so What we're being asked to do this morning, what you're being asked to do this morning, is to pass this bill for relief for only a few stations. Maybe 120, maybe 130. These installations are costing $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 an installation. And members, I can't begin to tell you how inadequate this response is to the problem. We could have solved this problem back in February by just giving an extension of a year and not costing the state of California any money. But no, what we are proposing to do is not fix the problem, but further kick it down the road, find some folks, and then perhaps give 120 or 130 people a loan or a grant and say, just feel good about this because this will help you. Ask for a no vote.
Senator Dutton.
Yeah, I'd just like to kind of emphasize a little bit more of what Senator Cox has indicated about this bill. What we have here is a situation, this regulation and so forth is similar to a lot of others that we currently have in the works right now. And the problem we have is that the gas station owners specifically here, like in some other cases on some other types of regs, they aren't saying that we don't want to do it. They're just saying give us a little bit more time. So what we're doing is throwing money at it. And the problem you have is that right now everybody's heard about all the cries about cash flow. Well, this does affect the cash flow. Okay, so why, when you have a simple solution like just extending the deadline a year and be done with it? Instead, we want to go spend more money when we have a limited cash resources right now. I would suggest that this is not fiscally responsible and we ought to vote no on this measure.
Senator Wright.
Members, I have a resolution that, again, deals in this same area. One of the problems becomes, and it's actually more insidious than Senator Cox described, when the regulators first came up with the program, there was only one company that made the device that would work. That device, because there was only one company that made it, would have required gas stations to spend in excess of $100,000 to be compliant. So a number of gas stations simply said, we're just going to have to go out of business because we don't have enough money to be compliant. And then what happened, again to Senator Cox's point, is that another vendor came in, and that vendor was able to provide the device for substantially less than the $100,000 cost. Except the problem is that now you only had a couple of months to comply, and the device wasn't available in the quantities that would be necessary for those stations to have complied. So what we were doing is we were squeezing people out of business by regulation because the department never foresaw the fact that there wasn't enough material available for the people to be compliant. And then when you look at the discussion and you realize that you're only talking about a 1 to 3% increase in the efficiency at the kinds of dollars that we were talking about, in any other venue we would say this was a scam for the two manufacturers. Because there's no other instance where you would say, I'm going to make you spend billions of dollars for a device that only one person makes. That on its face should have scared the hell out of everybody, that we were going to require billions of dollars to be spent in a situation where you didn't have but one vendor. But now we're a little better, we have two vendors. So they'll split the multiple billions of dollars for a 2% increase, which will produce no negligible benefit to the air quality. Again, I would hope that what we would do is simply extend the time that we allow for the stations to comply. Now there are other technologies that are coming on board. I think that they will work. They'll be far less expensive and far more onerous, and then we could spend our $8 million on something that would actually produce tangible results. So again, I understand what the author was trying to do, but I too would have to ask for a no vote.
Senator Benoit.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, you know, I've spoke on this issue before. I fully agree with Senator Cox, Senator Wright, about the logic of spending this kind of money at a time like this for a 1 or 2% improvement that would simply be put off by a year and solve most of the problems. We were not heard on that issue, on that common sense solution. So now we're going to give out loans to a small number of gas stations. My question to Senator Simitian is, the other day I saw for my first time a state warrant Are we going to give cash or IOUs to these people? And if so, how can they use that to get through this problem?
My understanding, Senator Benoit, is that we're going to give cash, and it gives us the opportunity to say, members, let's be clear. We're not talking about a penny of general fund money here. We're talking about special fund money that has been identified and already set aside to deal with this issue.
Well, it's still cash. It's from the state. It's a bad time and a bad precedent, and I urge my colleagues to vote no.
Senator Kehoe.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, this is a sensible measure. We're going into the heart of the summer when the idea of pollution and vapor recovery is even more important than it is in the colder weather. But I heard some discussion about the cost of the bill, and that is what I want to address because that was discussed in the Appropriations Committee. As Senator Simitian pointed out, this comes from the Petroleum Underground Storage Tank Financing Account, as you'll see on your desktops. It is not a general fund account, and this is $8 million, members, of grants and loans. A significant amount of money when you think of the number of nozzles that can get out in the state to improve our gasoline vapor recovery, but not a significant amount in the scheme of our huge budget. This left the Appropriations Committee members on a 12-1 vote. We have had members on both sides of the aisle pleading to get these nozzles out there and the financial support some of the smaller gas stations need to get them installed. So I think we should just go ahead and vote aye on this measure and let our gas stations convert to better equipment.
Senator Strickland.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, this bill is a classic example of what's wrong with the California legislature and what's wrong with the mindset of many of the members of the legislature. You know, when people say this is special funds, not general fund, the money doesn't come from the sky, members. This is still the people's money. You know, $8 million might not seem a lot. It is budget dust when we're talking about the billions of dollars that we have in our deficit. But let's make no mistake. General fund, special fund, that's money out of the pockets of your hardworking California taxpayers. And you could say this is not general fund, this is special fund money, but again, it's the people's money. And I think this legislature loses sight when we spend money, millions of dollars, those are actual dollars that come out of the pockets of those people who are working hard, those programs that you say that you want to protect. This is money that comes out of those special fund programs, this comes out of the general fund. And this is precisely what's wrong with the California legislature. It's not, you don't treat it as if it was your own money. You think this money comes from the sky. Now, Senator Cox had a proposal.
Point of personal privilege, please.
What is, state your point?
I would respectfully request that the Speaker not attribute motives, merits, or mind readings to individual members of the body, Madam President.
Point well taken. Please proceed, Senator Strickland.
Well, I didn't mention anybody's name, and I'm just talking about the legislature as a whole and the frustration that I've heard from many of my constituents that say we need to start acting as if it was our money and treat the taxpayers' dollars as if it was our own money. And I think that's the voice of the constituents I represent across the state of California. Now, I know many members don't want to hear that, but that's the bottom line, and that's what's going wrong with this California legislature. And again, Senator Cox had a proposal in February that wouldn't have cost a dime to the California taxpayers just by giving a year to catch up in the technology for these, these station owners, and that was rejected. I agree with Senator Cox and Senator Wright and Senator Benoit. This is feel-good legislation that's going to cost money to the taxpayers of California. We had a better way to do it. I urge a no vote.
Senator DeSaulnier.
Members, I just wanted to speak for a moment, having spent 10 years on the Air Resources Board and had worked on this project. This is a bill to try to help. When I was on CARB, we listened to particularly the independent station owners because we realized there was pressure on them, economic pressure. We worked with them. We worked with them in an environment when the companies they contracted with to dispense their product were not helping them. Maybe the big oil companies could help them with this product rather than try to eliminate them, because so many of the independent station owners have gone out of business and have been replaced by directly owned by corporation stations. So their pressure is not solely because of regulatory oversight, is my point. Secondarily, this is important. We've been working on this since 1975. CARB has been working on this program. When it's fully implemented, just in the South Coast, it will capture 16.7 tons of smog-producing pollution. That's significant for the health of Californians. So while we're sympathetic on this side of the House, and we're showing that by this bill that Mr. Ruskin has and Mr. Simitian is presenting, there's still a public health issue that shouldn't be put off a year, and I would urge your aye vote.
Senator Denham.
Madam President, members, I did not agree with the regulation when it went in place. I believe that it was one more regulation that was going to put small businesses out of business in this state, create one more area of competition that was going to disadvantage the small businesses in this state. I supported Senator Cox's bill. We do need to have an extension so that we don't have a couple of companies, at one time one company, making all of this money by a hasty action by the legislature. But we do not want to make this problem go even further than we are right now today. What this bill does is provide a loan for the very small mom and pops that are on the verge of going out of business. Now, we can certainly stand here on principle and say we didn't like the first law. We can certainly stand on principle and say, hey, the extension should have gone through. We should have created better competition. We should have gave the marketplace more time. That's not the bill that's in front of us today. The bill that's in front of us today gives us the opportunity to help out some of the small businesses around this state to stay in business. And that's what I'm willing to cast an aye vote for today.
Senator Runner.
I hate this bill. I voted for it once. I voted against it once. I voted for it once. I struggle with the issue. It is trying to do a very small fix that, even because of that, acknowledges the problem that was created by the regulation. And it creates that fix by creating a little bit of a backfill for small businesses in order to try to stay in business in an over-regulated California business environment. Now, that being said, we don't have the original issue in front of us. We should. We should be delaying this whole process because this affects everybody's district. But at the end of the day, and I've heard from a couple of my gas stations, they see this as at least an attempt to help them out. Now, let's make it clear where the money's coming from. It's coming from an account that some of these same businesses paid into. So I think that's kind of important to kind of remember in this process too. The folks are getting money out of an account to which they have been paying into. I don't like it. Like I said, I didn't like it the first time it came up. I voted for it again later. I'm going to vote for it today. But boy, I hope that in these ongoing discussions that we have, that we bear in mind what happens when we create these regulations and these business requirements that then make us have to go back and do little fixes that never solve the problem, that tinker with it, but never get to the core issue. I reluctantly will be voting aye.
Senator Dutton, for the second time on this issue.
Yeah, and actually I just want to kind of make sure that everybody keeps everything in perspective. I'm not going to necessarily speak about, this regulation in itself. But with regards to cash flow management, there was a reference made about special funds, and it's true, this comes out of a special fund. However, members, everybody should realize that one of the reasons we have a severe problem right now is because that's all we've done with special funds is borrow money from it into the general fund in order to create for other operations. As a matter of fact, there was consideration of fee increases in a couple of those general funds just so we could transfer more money or loan more money to the general fund. It's time to start living within our means, and the most logical thing to really do would be just to delay the implementation to buy the extra time, not take some of our precious cash flow that we desperately need for other things, and go ahead and make these loans. You can accomplish the same thing, give the relief to the small businesses, to all businesses, by delaying the implementation of the reg for at least 1 year, and that way you still have your cash flow available for other things that are critical and important as well. So with that, I would still encourage a no vote.
Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, one of the speakers said we've been working on this for 25 years. So what exactly is the problem with delaying 1 year? I mean, come on. 25 years? Longer? 1 year? Another senator said that there's some new technology coming online. We've already seen a second company come in to provide some competition. We have new technology that could be cheaper. We've heard that we have a cash flow problem, and this can help that. We're issuing IOUs. You think those folks would prefer that we keep $8 million in our cash that we can borrow from internally that we seem to have no problem doing instead of issuing IOUs? Yes, this is the bill in front of us. It's just the wrong bill. Now, this body has turned down the wrong bill before, and I urge you to do that today.
Senator Simitian, you may close.
Thank you. Let me begin by associating myself with the remarks of Senator Denham and Senator Runner. And let me highlight just if I may, let me highlight just a couple of points, members. With respect to the source of the funds, as Senator Runner pointed out, these are funds the same owners, the same small business owners themselves put in the fund to deal with some of the challenges that their businesses generate. They are now saying, could we please use some of our own money to meet a requirement? That seems to me the most reasonable and sensible of requests. Second, I think it's important to remember that for the better part of a decade, folks have known this was coming, and a majority of folks have been able to comply. But not everybody has been able to comply, and my thanks to Senator Steinberg and others who communicated with the Air Resources Board and said, could we please get a commitment from you to give folks a little bit more time where they need it, and also to limit the fines where appropriate. And as a result of that effort, that commitment has now been made and was referenced in the debate. Senator Cox respectfully will recall that, in fact, I supported in my role as chair of the Environmental Quality Committee a bill he had to provide exemptions for some of the smallest of owners not too long ago, and Senator Runner, I believe, was on the committee at that time. So we have shown a willingness to deal with those circumstances. An alternative measure was proposed, and it was heard in the committee, and ultimately the decision was that not everything requires a piece of legislation. If we could, with a little gentle persuasion, get the board to be reasonable about delays and about limiting fines, that then the further solution was, can we find a way to fund compliance using the station owner's own money that will keep us in compliance with the regulations and not threaten our federal funding in terms of clean air requirements? And ultimately, this was the solution that moved forward. Here's what I think the trouble with the California State Legislature is, with no personal reference whatsoever. I think the trouble is that too often we let push and shove get in the way of solving problems and helping people. These are real small business owners facing a real problem who would like to use their own money to get the problem fixed. That being said, in a difficult economy, I cannot think of a time when it would be more appropriate to take this approach, and I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll. This is a 27-vote urgency measure.
Onnested? Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Benoit? Calderon? Cedillo? Aye. Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Correa? Cox? No. Denham? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. DeCheney? Dutton? No. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? No. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. Leno? Aye. Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero?
Aye.
Aye. Runner? Aye. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? No. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Aye. Wright? No. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye.
Call the absent members.
Onnested? Ashburn? Benoit? Calderon? Corbett? Correa? Ducheney? Harmon? Oropesa?
Senator Semidian moves a call. Members, we have a consent calendar, items 210 to 211. Actually, 210 through item 210. Members, the consent calendar is item 210. Senator Runner?
Yes, we'd like to pull file item 242 off consent.
Okay, that is on the special consent calendar. File item 242 will be pulled from the special consent calendar. Desk, please note. On the consent calendar, file item 210. Secretary, call the roll.
Onnested? Aye. Alquist? Aye. Ashburn? Benoit? Aye. Calderon? Cedillo? Cogdill? Aye. Corbett? Correa? Cox? Aye. Denham? Aye. Dusanier? Aye. Ducheney? Aye. Dutton? Aye. Flores? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? Hollingsworth? Aye. Huff? Aye. Kehoe? Leno? Liu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Maldonado? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Aye. Oropesa? Padilla? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price? Aye. Romero?
Aye.
Aye. Runner? Aye. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Aye. Strickland? Aye. Walters? Aye. Wiggins? Aye. Wolk? Wright? Aye. Wyland? Aye. Yee? Yee, aye. Leno, aye. Correa, aye. Kehoe, aye. Cedillo, aye.
Ayes 34, no 0. The consent calendar is adopted. Members, we do have a special consent calendar, items 212 through 255, excluding item 242. Is there any objection to substituting the previous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 34, no 0. The special consent calendar is adopted. Members, we have one item remaining on call. Members, we also have a WARF consent calendar. These were the items that were previously brought up to the floor. Is there any objection to substituting our unanimous roll call on the WARF consent calendar? Seeing none, ayes 34, no 0. The WARF consent calendar is adopted. Senator Semidian, are you prepared to lift the call? Please lift the call. Secretary, please call the absentees.
Onnested? Aye. Ashburn?
Senator Onestad, that is not a rule of the House. It is either aye or no.
Onestad, no. Ashburn? Benoit? Calderon? Corbett? Correa? DeCheney? Aye. Harmon? Oropesa? Correa, aye.
Ayes 20.
Denham, aye. Denham's aye.
Members, ayes 27, no 7 on the measure. Ayes 27, no 7 on the urgency. The measure is adopted. Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear.
Thank you, Madam President. The House will be on the call of the pro tem over the next several days. Ask people to be within good 4 hours of the Capitol as negotiations continue on the budget revision. Otherwise, session will resume formally at noon on Monday. Thank you.
Members, the Senate is in recess.